What's up, everybody? Welcome to the first episode to the Search for Truth. I'm one of the co-founders, Dawson Rowe, and today we also have...
My name's Cruz, co-founder of the Search for Truth, and I'm excited to bring the first episode for y'all, so I hope y'all enjoy.
I'm very excited as well. Now, today we're just going to kind of be having a conversation back and forth with me and Cruz, and we're just going to be talking about our beliefs, our standpoints, and kind of what we want out of the channel. So just to start, I will say I hate to use the word religious, but I do have very heavy Christian beliefs. I'd like to say I'm very spiritual, though, just because I understand spiritual is a true nature. It's mind, body, spirit. And although it's not something tangible, it's something that's known throughout mankind. And so that's something I've always been very interested and curious within trying to discover, figure out as much as I can. And that's one thing that brought me and Cruz together. Cruz, you want to go ahead and say your beliefs as well?
So like Dawson was saying, he does have more of a religious background, but also tying the religious aspect into the spiritual aspect. And that's exactly where I stem from. So I was born and raised Christian, and then kind of throughout school, I started to just say that I was a Christian, although I never practiced or truly believed in, I knew there was a God, but that was about the extent of it. And it wasn't until after high school and a little bit years later on where I started to do a lot of deep inner work and then started to stem out into more spiritual belief.
Which is something that I honestly really love, that you have a very strong spiritual nature and spiritual understanding without the influence of religion very much. But one thing that I feel like we should also go over is, I'll ask you first, what is God to you?
So God to me, that is a great question, and I think it's going to be one of the most impactful questions that we actually have here on the show. Me personally, my interpretation of God is more of universal consciousness, right? So the analogy that I like to use, imagine if you have the ocean, and every single person on the planet has a red Solo cup, and they dip their water in the ocean, and they add their rocks, their minerals, their spices, food coloring, whatever. That is what makes that person that person. That is their interest and hobbies, their likes, their dislikes, their music taste, what they prefer to eat. That is what makes them them. However, once you take away all of that, they are nothing more than ocean water. Well, same thing with us. I have hobbies and beliefs, so do you, and so does every single one of you all watching at home. But when you sit and you think, and there is a part of you that is not a tangible part, you can't see your consciousness. You can't see your spirit. Matter of fact, your consciousness is only conscious of itself. My conscious is not understanding of the fact that there is another conscious out there. I know that, but my conscious doesn't understand that there is other conscious out there because it's all the same. We are fractions from the same source, and I think God is the universal consciousness as a whole.
So, I think that's very true, especially with God being beyond time and space. If you get rid of both of those factors, then what do you have? You kind of do have an ocean, something that is not confined, something that is not, it really can't comprehend it, if I'm going to be honest with you. But whenever you say we all come from a source, I imagine kind of let's say we can say an ocean, and you take a cup and get a cup of water out of it. Do you think we keep our uniqueness, just as no one is really the same? You can get people who have similar personalities, but no one's quite exactly the same. Do you think we keep our uniqueness in the next, and whatever that is, or do we kind of just go and unite to one?
Yeah, and that's such a great question, right? Because although me and you, Dawson, we are completely different people, we can still share the same interests, the same like in music and like in food, and the same hobbies and the same ideas. However, that does not make me you, and that does not make you me. However, once you get to the baseline core of what you actually are, the existence of myself and the existence of yourself and the existence of every single person watching this, we all come from the same spot. And that is an undeniable fact. It doesn't matter what religion you go through or what your viewpoints are, we come from something greater than the earth. And do I think that our beliefs carry on into the next life? I would say maybe some of them in terms of soul development. So maybe through these likes and dislikes and these activities that you found interest in, maybe you learned lessons along the way. Maybe you had certain experiences that you kept with you. Maybe it taught you something that you needed to know. I think that you take back the experiences, but maybe not necessarily the likes, because everything that we do here on earth is ultimately going to be different once we move back on or go back home, wherever it may be. We don't have football or sports in the afterlife, so we don't really take those interests with us, at least in my own perspective. And I'd be curious to see if there's anybody that has a different viewpoint on that. But in my own perspectives, once we move on from here, none of this is real. We move on from it. So I think we take the lessons, but not necessarily the exact interest, just the lessons from the interest.
If we take the lessons with us, do you think reincarnation is a possibility?
So me personally, I'm not going to sit here and say that reincarnation isn't a real thing, and I'm not going to say that it's not. However, me personally, Dawson, I am 110% of a real believer in reincarnation. I think that we come here and we incarnate to Earth, and as we incarnate here on Earth, we are here to learn lessons. Dawson, let me ask you a question real quick. Have you ever had your heart broken?
Yeah.
Okay. I've had my heart broken, and I'm sure millions of you at home have also had your heart broken. Now, Dawson, your breakup, was it the same as my breakup?
No, probably not.
No. And mine wasn't the same as yours. And I'm sure for those who are watching, your breakup is going to be different than what you see in the comments, or different than what me and Dawson were thinking. We all learned the same lesson from a different perspective. And I think that within reincarnation, you have certain lessons that your soul needs to learn in order to properly develop, and that is also used for the soul development, as it's a soul, So it incarnates here on earth, and then we go through the trials and the tribulations, and we live out these experiences and these moments of interaction with other people. And through these interactions and through these experiences, you also take away the lessons. And within the lessons, there is a way that you learn, and that's how you live life. When you start to ride a bike, you don't just start off going down the hill full throttle. No, you start with your training wheels, and then you take the training wheels off, and then you fall a little bit, you scrape your knees and your hands, but you pick yourself back up. And you learn from it, and that is an experience. And then once you learn it, you ultimately never really forget it. Same thing with your soul. We go through these lessons, and we find out that we get to experience, heartbreak, love, sadness, anger, happiness, joy, whatever it is that we feel. We get to experience that because that is the human experience. We come here to experience all the different range of emotions and so forth.
So if the human experience is so different from everybody, and so from my standpoint, I have a God and a certain set of rules and beliefs that if I do this, I'll get access to this. But it's kind of universal. Whether you haven't heard of my God or not, he's still a just God. So therefore, I don't know how they'll get judged, but I know they'll get judged fairly. How do you account for the people that have different experiences, and how will it affect them going into the next life from what you feel and believe?
So to answer your questions, I think that what we do here on earth has a direct correlation to what happens to us in the afterlife. And for one reason and one reason only. Karma is a huge thing. Whether it's good or bad, karma will start to stick with you. You do a lot of great things in this life, you will be rewarded. You might reap benefits in this life, but it also is going to carry over to the next, from my personal belief. And then same thing, if you're a bad person, you do a lot of bad things, you rack up a lot of negative karma. Let's say you're a horrible, horrible person and something tragic happens and unfortunately you no longer live here. Are you just debt free from the karma? I don't think so. I think when you reincarnate back into this life, the cards that you get dealt might not be as ideal, but in some way, shape, and form, that karma has to be repaid. And whether it's good karma or bad karma, what we do here on earth now in this one life that we get, and that's not a cliche saying, we get one life, 80 years if we're lucky, and we have to do the most with it. Whether that's find our purpose, whether that's share with, time with the loved ones and build a good life for you and the ones that are close, or whatever it is that you seek enjoyment in doing. We have to make the most out of it, and also keeping in mind that what happens to us now and what we choose to do and we make a conscious decision to do is also going to have a direct correlation with our spirit or our soul or consciousness once we move on.
So, honestly, it's very impressive how much of a spiritual understanding you have. What triggered this? What caused this inner want to find this deep of a meaning?
Yes, so it started back in February of 2023, and I tried portobello mushrooms for the first time. And with this, I don't know what I saw, Dawson, but I just know that it was the most beautiful thing that I never saw, to the point where I started to cry. From this, I started to do a lot of inner work and a lot of research, and through meditation and the assistance of natural plant medicine, it has started to open up different pathways and different ideas. And the farther along that I got and the deeper states of meditation that I received, whether plant medicine was used or not, these ideas would slowly start to come to me. And for me personally, what started to happen was my mind started to slow down. And I'm not saying slow down as I got, let's say, more stupid, but all the extra thoughts that most people run on as a program. And for me, I learned, like, okay, wait a second. I can control my own mind. I get to choose what I want to think about and when I want to think about it. So I started to slowly tune out all that excess noise. Once I tuned out that noise, I was able to bring my awareness back to the present moment, to where information is able to flow through me, and these realizations would just come at random moments. And I think that's essentially what started it. And from there, I just went deeper, deeper, and deeper. And those experiences or those beliefs definitely widened.
I'm going to hone in on the thoughts. Just as you said that once you really just eliminated the static and really just started to discern those other thoughts and hone in on your own personal inner voice, I would like to explain on my perspective what that is. So there's spiritual discernment, which is your ability to tune out all that noise, all those evil thoughts, and all those unproductive, just evil, bad, whatever it may be. I mean, even just, no, I'm going to hit my alarm and snooze for an extra 10 minutes. That's not a productive thought. That's an evil thought. We'll hit that with quotation marks, though. And so what that is just as premarital sex, it's not meant to just condone you, but it's more of like, condemn you, my apologies, but it's more of a protection, because you can have spiritual ties with people. You can pick up evil spirits. And I feel like, now this is my belief, but I'm pretty strongly sure this is what like possession can be. This is what evil spirits are. Because if spiritual warfare is all in the head, then those voices that tell you to, hey, you're good, you can go out and get drunk this weekend. Now I will clarify, drinking's not a sin, but going out and getting blatantly drunk to where you can barely walk, your level of discernment is disrupted, then yeah, that's not the healthiest thing. That was a thought telling you to either quiet a feeling that you aren't facing, to bury something deeper with a substance. That's not the answer. So those voices that you said you had to tune out, do you think that there's a possibility that's what evil is or can be?
So I think that evil can definitely influence through train of thought. The train of thought that I was referencing wasn't necessarily evil intention, but I feel like, especially before I started this journey, before I made the conscious decision to kind of tune out that noise, my mind was always going. And it didn't matter if it was on what happened last week, what I was about to do, what this person had said. Regardless of what it was, there were so many useless thoughts that were racing through my mind 24/7 until I went to sleep. And when I started to put a conscious decision and a conscious effort into it, they slowly started to go away, where now in the point where If I have conversation with somebody, excuse me, I'm getting tongue tied. If I have conversation with somebody or I'm out doing something, my mind is focused on whatever it is I want it to be on. It is locked in and it is present with what is actually taking place. It is not going through anything else. It is focused and is present within each and every single moment. But Dawson, before we continue, I do want to ask or make a statement kind of on what you had said earlier with the whole sexual energy and the sexual ties with the premarital sex. Sexual energy is the energy that creates and brings life. Within that, that is the deepest level of connection that you share with somebody. So if you could help me understand from that point of the whole premarital sex, I mean, I kind of understand, because it is a soul tie. You do build that connection on a level that's not physical with somebody, but why is that a sin?
Because it's first off, God isn't against sex, but with your significant other, with your second half, it's a covenant with God when done within marriage, and that's how he made us to reproduce. However, when you do it premarital, now he's putting it as a sin because A, that's not what he created us for, and then B, it's protection. Just as drinking's not a sin, but getting drunken is, it's protection for us because we are humans, we mess up, we make lousy decisions, and there's often repercussions that we can't predict that he can. And so he understands with the premarital sex, not only is it a sin against your own body because you're defiling it, you might be doing risky things, you might get some type of disease, but beyond that, it's also on a spiritual level where you're now making a soul tie, and if they have any negative, we can just say spirits or any other ties they got with premarital sex they've committed before you, well, now it's latched onto you and now it's your problem. So it's not meant to just be like a sin and you're condemned, you're screwed, you're going to hell, you're burning forever, but it's more or less a protection for us because he knows. I'm not saying we don't, but we can't predict the future. We can only make, educated guesses. So
yeah, absolutely, man. And I just wanted to say that was great because, for me personally, like I said, my beliefs, they don't really stem a lot of spiritually. They don't. They're more personal spiritual beliefs. And thank you for clarifying that for me and for those who are at home who might have been a little concerned, or not really concerned, but questioned as well. And Dawson, you asked me this earlier in the conversation, and I want to recap and kind of ask you the same thing. What is your perception of God?
Unconditional love. Every time I hear God, that's the first thing I think of. That's one reason I'm not scared to burn in hell for eternity. I'm scared to live in a place that doesn't have unconditional love in it. And so I picture God as unconditional love. Saying that, though, he's also just. He's also a jealous God. So don't think it's bad to be jealous. It's your actions that come from it that can't be justified by the emotion that you feel. However, God's a justice God. He loves us so much, he doesn't want to see us worship anything else. And so even that in itself shows love. So ultimately, I just see love. I see somebody who created me because he was lonely and he wants to be able to talk and have a relationship with me. And I see him as my father, my creator, and somebody, honestly, that I want to be with. Now, also want to flip that back and ask you that same thing. When you hear God, what do you think? What do you...
When I hear God, the first thing that comes to my mind is infinite source of creation. God has created us all. He's created everything that we've seen, or the higher power, whatever it is that you want to use. But the main thing is that we don't deny its existence. Whether we use the term God or the universe or Muhammad or Buddha, whatever it may be, we never deny the existence of something greater than ourselves. Me personally, the first thing that comes to my mind is universal creation and infinite source of that. But I do want to ask you another question, Dawson. When was the first time that you had ever felt the presence or heard the word of God from himself?
I've never once heard God. God gives people gifts, and one of my gifts that I know for sure is my unwavering faith. And if faith is beyond seeing and hearing, I'll never be able to see him, I'll never hear him. And I'm blessed to be able to do that. And I'm blessed to feel this committed and this strongly in this belief. And saying that, though, I've seen him through life, through a insane amount of coincidences that have happened in my life, to where it is beyond more easy to believe there is a God that did this than just coincidence, 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 coincidence. And that's how I've seen him. It's not directly, it's not physically, but it's through the strange nature of how my life has gone. And I would love to, in another episode, dive deeper on that. And I do just want to say, as we're getting close to the 20-minute mark, we just passed it, actually. Do you want to go ahead and tell them about the 2 forms that we're going to have below?
So down below, we're going to have not 1, but 2 separate forms. So on the first form, you're going to be able to fill out almost like a questionnaire type of page. On this page, you're going to have a couple of different things where you're able to give live feedback. With the feedback, you're able to, let us know your viewpoints is what we want. We want you to submit these forms. Let us know your personal beliefs. If there was something that we said that you agreed with and that you wanted to add more context to, please feel free to share that within the form. If there was something that you disagree with, we encourage you to do the same and let us know what it is that you disagree with, because we might be coming to the same conclusion but from different perspectives, or we're still interested in hearing your side. When me and Dawson do these videos, it's never claiming truth. We want to get everybody's perspective. We want to kind of understand as much of the religion aspect from all the different religions, but also to gather personal beliefs through, the collective that we all share. And in the other form, there's going to be another one where you're able to actually submit a request to hop on and join the channel. Whether we meet up or we have a call, or we actually sit down and we discuss these different viewpoints and these different beliefs, and then we're able to upload that video for those who are watching at home to see and kind of get your viewpoint. So whether you want to hop on the show or whether you don't want to hop on the show, we have a form for both. Feel free, the link will be down below. Just click it out, fill it, submit it. Me and Dawson will reach out whenever the time comes. But until then, I encourage you to check those links out. And as co-founder, Search for Truth. Till we meet again, the search continues.